Entering fantasy drafts within the next couple weeks here. I would look to target in no particular order, but guys to keep in mind and guys to think about later in your drafts or middle of your drafts here that can help your fantasy team, including obviously dynasty and keeper leagues for the future. The first guy, James Cook of the Buffalo Bills. So James Cook, the brother of Dalvin Cook here, now drafted this season by the Buffalo Bills. We know they got Devin Singletary and Zach Morris, but those guys honestly haven't got the job done over the last few seasons here for the Buffalo Bills. And Cook, he could definitely be a 3-down back in the future. This season, I think they're going to mold him in slowly to this Bills offense, but I think when it's all said and done by the end of the year, he's going to be the number one cowbell over there. He could do it all right now as James Cook. And right now, he's going anywhere from the 9th to the 11th round in fantasy league. So for a guy to stash on your bench with great potential and great upside to have a breakout rookie season, he's definitely a running back I'm big on, and he's my favorite rookie running back as well here is James Cook. I know other people have other opinions about rookie running backs who they like the best, but I think he's got the most potential on the best offense in the league here possibly is Cook, and it sky's the limit for him as long as he's going to get an opportunity mid-season towards the end of the season to get 15, 20 touches a game because I think Cook could have a great year and a guy I would try to draft him like I mentioned. He's going anywhere from 9th to the 11th round in most fantasy leagues. The next guy is George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So what a breakout game Pickens had in his first preseason bowl game, including an insane catch here. So Pickens, he fell a little bit in the NFL draft this year here, but Pickens, he's definitely a guy that could crack this rotation and even be the number 2 wide receiver or breakout guy like Chase Claypool was a few seasons ago where he had that 4-touchdown game for the Steelers. So right now it's Deontay Johnson, Claypool, and him. It looks like the pecking order. And right now Pickens, he's going towards the back end of fantasy drafts, anywhere from the 12th to the 14th round. But right now with his performance and future performances here, he's definitely a wide receiver that can move up the ranking board right before drafts are going to start happening in the next 2 or 3 weeks here for fantasy owners before the season starts. I know Mitchell Trubisky's the quarterback over there, most likely in Pittsburgh, with Pickett possibly trying to beat him out for the job. But he at least could get the ball down the field, something Big Ben Roethlisberger couldn't do over the last few seasons. And James Washington's gone in Dallas, so Pickens at least at minimum is going to be the 3rd or 4th receiver over here for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. And he's a guy with great upside. He's a rookie, and I definitely would look to target him because he could come out of nowhere like Claypool did a few seasons ago and be a guy that could be a flex option or even better, possibly 2nd, 3rd receiver on your fantasy team. The next guy I would look to target as a rookie this season is Treylon Burks of the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, Derrick Henry in the defense is the formula for this Titan team here. But Treylon Burks, he's going to be a guy that's going to need to get the ball, and he's going to be the number 2 wide receiver. Him and Robert Woods, the 2 top guys over there this season here for Tennessee. And in his first preseason game, he played into the 4th quarter was Treylon Burks. So right now, him and Woods are the 2 guys at wide receiver over there in Tennessee I would obviously target. He's going at the back end of fantasy drafts anywhere from the 12th to the 14th round. And it doesn't hurt to take him as a player that's going to be a flyer on your fantasy roster who can have breakout potential in the second half. And everyone's gone over there. A.J. Brown, they traded to Philly. They cut Julio Jones in the offseason. He signed with the Tampa Bay Bucks. And now Treylon Burks, they traded up to get him in the NFL draft here, and he's going to have a role from week 1 with this team. Obviously, they're going to be growing pains as a rookie with all these guys, I believe, here. But Treylon Burks is a guy to take a stash and a flyer on later in your league, and he potentially breaks out by midseason to become a good player. He's a perfect rookie I would look to get, and it's all about opportunity. And Tannehill, I don't think he's a great quarterback, but he's at least a quarterback that can get the ball to his wide receivers, and that's what he's going to do here with only pretty much Robert Woods and Burks in the lineup. The next guy I look to target's Dameon Pierce of the Houston Texans. So Marlon Mack I like a lot as well this season. He's going to get an opportunity, but Pierce in that preseason game looks like he's going to be the number 1 guy now. And there's reports already coming out that he could be the bell cow starting running back in the first 3-4 weeks of the season. Rex Burkhead, he's not a starter in my opinion. He'll be a 3rd down back at most. And Marlon Mack's really the only guy I think that's going to challenge Pierce for the starting position. But right now, this team's going nowhere once against this Texan team. They obviously traded Deshaun Watson in the offseason, and they're looking to rebuild in the draft here. And right now, after that huge ball game in his preseason debut with 5 carries for 48 yards, 9.8 yards a clip on a carry for Pierce. He's a guy that moved up the ranking boards quickly in just a week here. Right now, he's going anywhere from the 8th to the 10th round in fantasy leagues. And I think that's a decent ADP for a guy who's going to start and a guy you most likely won't have in your starting lineup at that point in your fantasy drafts, but another guy with breakout potential on your draft. So after a nice ball game in the preseason opener here for Pierce, and obviously Marlon Mack and Burkhead veterans who will probably get the nod early in the year, but when it's all said and done with a rebuilding team here like the Texans, they're going to have young guys start and play a lot once they're down in the division quick in the season. And Pierce is definitely a running back I'm going to target and a guy I like. The next guy is Drake London in the Atlanta Falcons. So right now, Drake London, I think he's my favorite rookie wide receiver coming into the season. So right now, Drake London, he was banged up a little bit in their preseason game, but nothing major with any injury. So he's probably going to be day-to-day or week-to-week, and they're going to take it easy with him. This Atlanta Falcon team, it's going to be a bad year for them once again. Marcus Mariota is going to be their quarterback this season here, and they're going to be trailing in a lot of games. We're going to have to force-feed guys like Kyle Pitts and Drake London, and it's a new regime, and it's a new time here in Atlanta. They traded Matt Ryan in the offseason to the Indianapolis Colts after 14 good seasons here with the Atlanta Falcons, and now they're looking to build through the draft, and Drake London's a guy that I think could get the job done and has great potential. So I like him a lot this season. He's my number 1 rookie wide receiver coming into the year that I think could have a great fantasy season, and he's going about 9th to 11th round in most fantasy drafts. So as a bench option or a guy as a flex to start the season, I think Drake London is definitely a guy you should target and a guy that could be the number 1 rookie wide receiver this season when it's all said and done. The next rookie's another wide receiver, Olave of the New Orleans Saints. So the Saints here, they've had trouble finding good wide receivers over the last few years. I know Michael Thomas is back now, but he's a guy you can't really count on. He's a guy that's been injured over the last 2 seasons, and I think he's packing it in since he collected his money. And now reports are coming out the Saints have big plans here for Chris Olave. I believe he's going to be the number 2 wide receiver over there here for the New Orleans Saints is Chris Olave. Right now, you got Michael Thomas, you got him, and you pretty much don't have another few other pieces in this offense. Jameis Winston, we know he likes to spread the field. We know he's got a big arm. We know he likes to take chances. And he's had big seasons in this league. Here's Jameis Winston. Obviously in his Tampa days with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, where he had over 5,000 yards and over 30 passing touchdowns, but also throws the intos as well. But that doesn't matter, obviously, for playmakers. So if Thomas is healthy by some chance and Chris Olave is going to have single coverage and defenses aren't going to be really rolling to him, he definitely could have potential as well to be the number 1 rookie wide receiver this season here in New Orleans. And with a quarterback that could stretch the field like Winston, I think it's a good fit for Olave. And he's definitely a wide receiver you should target, and he's going 10th, 12th round area as well in fantasy drafts. The next guy I look to target this year is Tyler Algier of the Atlanta Falcons. So I know right now going into the season, obviously he's not going to be the starting running back, but another running back I'll take in the last couple rounds of my fantasy leagues. We don't know if Cordell Patterson could handle the full load as the starting running back over there in Atlanta. Last season he was great, but also Mike Davis was there as well, but he's gone off to the Baltimore Ravens after the Falcons cut him loose and he signed over there. But anyway, Algier, they drafted him this season, and he's another guy who has big potential, and I think he's going to be a running back that's going to get big volume sooner than later. Like I mentioned, Patterson's a wide receiver that's converted to running back, and I don't know if he can handle a workload, Patterson, once again, with 200-plus touches this season. So right now, this Falcon team, they've got a lot of moving parts, a lot of young guys coming in. They traded franchise quarterback Matt Ryan. Last season, traded Julio Jones, and that's about the kids. And right here, hey, you could have a decent offense in the next couple of years. You got Algier, maybe he could break out and be a good running back. You got Drake London they drafted, who could be a potential number 1 down the line and a stud receiver. And you got Kyle Pitts, the top tight end in the draft last season they took here, is this Falcon team. So right now, he's a rookie with breakout potential and great ADP. He's definitely a rookie I would target this season in my drafts. The next guy is Jalen Tolbert of the Dallas Cowboys. So the Cowboys, a lot of injuries already, and it's not even week 2 really of the preseason here. Jalen Tolbert, he's looking like the number 2 wide receiver going into the season with James Washington broken foot. Michael Gallup still recovering from the torn ACL last season, and a guy we don't know if he's going to be 100% or even back in time before week 1. So Tolbert, he's on a pretty decent offense in Dallas, and Dallas, they don't have a lot of playmakers besides CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz as their 2 top guys in the receiving game. And at running back, Ezekiel Elliott looks finished to me. Tony Pollard, he was good last season. He should get more of an opportunity, but he's a running back anyway. So it's next man up, and Jalen Tolbert, another guy going very late in fantasy drafts here. And he's got potential to have a breakout rookie season, and a guy with target with good ADP in a decent offense in Dallas. And a guy they're looking to stretch the field with a few guys they traded away or left in free agency, with Cooper going to Cleveland and Cedric Wilson going to the Miami Dolphins. And the season of fantasy drafts is Isiah Pacheco of the Kansas City Chiefs. So right now, I know the Chiefs got a plethora of running backs. You got CEH over there. You got Ronald Jones, who they signed in the offseason, which is an underrated move, in my opinion. But right here, Pacheco's been working reports in red zone reps and some first-team reps as well here. I know in his preseason debut, only 2 carries for 6 yards, but CDH, he hasn't ran away with it. A few seasons ago, a lot of people raving about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he was going first, second round in fantasy drafts. But he's a guy that's forgotten about, and he's a guy that's been injury-prone in the first few seasons of the NFL here. So Pacheco, I would take a late-round fly on him, especially in Dynasty and Keeper leagues here. It wouldn't be surprising to me by midseason if he has a role with this team here, and a guy to definitely keep an eye on and target. Yeah, I would look to target entering fantasy drafts in the seasons. Brian Robinson Jr. of the Washington Commanders. So right now, it looks like he's going to be the number 1 back over there for the Commanders, is Robinson Jr. After Antonio Gibson's been lining up with special teams unit, and a guy who's been injured on and off for the last few seasons in the first few years of his NFL career, and a guy who just can't protect the football with a lot of fumble issues. So right now, looks like the Commanders are going with Robinson Jr. in the backfield, but I'm not fully convinced he's going to get tons more carries than Antonio Gibson. But right now, going into fantasy leagues, he's a running back you got to respect now as a guy who's going to be a starter, at least in a 50-50 split. So 8 to the 10th round range is a flex option or running back to come off the bench and fill in on your bye weeks. I think Brian Robinson will be at minimum right now for fantasy owners here. So Gibson, it's definitely been a problem. Washington seems high here on Robinson Jr. And right now he's getting the first team reps and surpassed Gibson as the top running back. So that's a few rookies I would look to target entering fantasy drafts in the next couple weeks here and the football season.